Okay, so here we are, start of module 3, which is personal competencies for good leadership. And this is more about you as an individual and the types of qualities that you will need to be effective as a leader. And number one, and probably the most important, is this concept of emotional intelligence. So, um, we obviously go to school and we get qualifications, we go to universities, we get degrees. And I've met many people who have great CVs with fantastic A stars and first class honours. But for some reason, they don't inspire a passion in me, or they don't get the best out of me. And for whatever reason, they never achieve true success. They might be intellectually effective in their role, but this deeper sense of emotional intelligence rather than intellectual intelligence is what people search for in leadership. And so I want to try and explain it in 2 or 3 slides and get you to think about your own competency in this area. I think I've improved. I think still got a long way to go. I think my wife would argue that I've definitely got a long way to go. But I do try to understand it and then ultimately apply it. So, what is emotional intelligence? Great leaders move us. They ignite our passion and inspire the best in us. When we try to explain why they're so effective, we speak of strategy, vision, or powerful ideas, but the reality is much simpler. Great leadership works through the emotions. And I couldn't have said it any better, really, in that emotional intelligence is the power to stir emotion in people and create a desire for them to be successful and for to work hard for your team. And it's more than intellectual challenge; it's emotional challenge and it's emotional connection, so that people will work harder for you. When leaders drive emotions positively, they bring out everyone's best. We call this resonance. When they drive emotions negatively, leaders create dissonance, undermining the emotional foundations that let people shine. So I've met many leaders who actually drive emotions negatively and ultimately get performance. And I'm sure you could name coaches or leaders who you've worked with who've done the same. I think it's short term. I think it does work, but I do think it is short term. I think the really true great leaders, they drive emotions positively in people and bring out the best in people. And I'm sure you could think of names off the top of your head. You're already thinking about who have just this innate ability to motivate people in the right way using the right emotional tools. So what are those emotional tools? So here we go. So there's two categories really. One is your personal competency, so who you are, and obviously your work-related competencies about how you do your job. So what we're going to focus on in this particular section is just the personal competencies of who you are, and we're going to go through each one. So in order to sort of give you an idea about how to assess your own ability, just be thinking about scoring yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of self-awareness. How self-aware do you think you are? How good are you at managing yourself? How good are you in social awareness? And how good are you in terms of relationship management? Leadership, thinking in how you do your job, getting the best out of others, organisational awareness, personal drive and personal development we'll come on to as well. But it's the first 4 I want to focus on. So personal competency, these capabilities determine how we manage ourselves. So self-awareness, so reading one's own emotions and recognising their impact, using gut sense to guide decisions. Accurate self-assessment, knowing one's strengths and limits. Self-confidence, a sound sense of one's self-worth and capabilities. So self-awareness is the ability to know yourself, obviously, clues in the title. This might be something as simple as, well, am I more an introvert or an extrovert? Do I prefer detail or do I prefer bigger picture thinking? Am I someone who would be passive in meetings or maybe aggressive? And there's no right or wrong way, obviously. It's just who you are. But more importantly, recognizing your emotions and reflecting on why you feel the way you feel. But more importantly, as a leader, recognize the impact of your emotions on other people. I worked with a coach once where, I could tell what sort of mood he was in by just the way he walked into the room, and if it was a bad mood, then no one said much in the meetings, that's for sure. So using your antennae, your social antennae, to work out what sort of mood you're in and what your emotions are, your emotional state, and their impact on other people. And then within that, trust in that emotional intellect to guide your decision making. I think an ability to accurately self-assess, knowing your strengths and limits. I think certainly I've learned a lot about myself over the last few years, certainly in the last 12 months, what my strengths are and what my limits are. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of my strengths would be managing many relationships and trying to get the best out of people and connecting with many people. My limit as a leader in this sense is that I do care about people, and as a consequence, when I have to make difficult decisions on selection or a contract or whatever, it takes a lot out of me, and I will always have the conversation face to face, but it does hurt me to see other people not achieve the goals they want to achieve. Other coaches perhaps would be more not ruthless, but more confident in doing those things, and it wouldn't affect them personally, and they would be able to distance themselves from that relationship. I guess for me, what I try and do is get close to the players. Not so close I can't make those difficult decisions, but close enough so they want to play for me. And there are other types of coaches who do it differently. And again, there's no right or wrong. It's just understanding who you are. And then ultimately within self-awareness, having that self-confidence. So about your self-worth and also about your capabilities. And that has come through obviously a track record of excellence really, and feedback and knowledge about how you're doing in your role as you've grown through that leadership pathway. So the second one is self-management. So emotional self-control, keeping disruptive emotions and impulses under control. Really difficult area, particularly in the stresses of high-level sport or in business. And I could do this reasonably well, and certainly in the really difficult moments I could manage to keep my emotions in check. Although, interestingly, I got some feedback once which said that sometimes we want to see a bigger range of emotions from you, from one of the players. Show us when you're happy, but show us when you're angry, and so don't be too level, is the point I'm making. Don't be too emotionally self-controlled, but equally make sure you've got control when those difficult moments come and you don't lose your rag and say something or do something you might regret. I think this is absolutely critical. So always displaying honesty, integrity and trustworthiness. I'll go back to the previous module. Do what you say you're going to do, and so that people can trust in you, and particularly trust in you in the really difficult moments when the bullets are flying, is that you're not going to turn on your people that you're leading and look to protect yourself. So you've got flexibility in the way you approach people in situations and obstacles. So you've not just got one way of doing it, and we've got the next module with 6 different leadership styles, which will talk about those different ways in getting the best out of people, and it's a bit like getting the right tool out the box at the right time, or someone else described it to me as getting the right golf club out the bag to make the right shot in the approach to put in the ball in the hole. So you've got this sense of achievement, the drive to improve performance to meet the inner standards of excellence. So not the outer standards of trying to win a trophy or get a pay rise, but that inner standard of excellence which drives ultimate performance. And then you've got initiative, readiness to act and seize opportunities. And then finally on self-management, and this is absolutely true of all the great leaders I've worked with, is they see the upside in people and events and things, and they don't see the pint glass half empty position. And as a consequence, they inspire others to behave and see the world in that way. So social awareness. So this is your ability to go into a room, to meet people, to work with your employees, to work with the people that you're leading. And you can sense the emotion. You can sense the mood in the camp. You understand their perspective. You can say to people in a meeting, listen, I can see where you're coming from. I can see why you're saying what you're saying. And you are actively interested in them as people and in their concerns. And within that, it's absolutely critical when you are giving time to people. It is undevoted time, not on your phone, not checking your emails, not distracted about the next meeting that's going on the corner. You spend your time with them, and then the empathy that you show them will be returned in spades by them. Organisational awareness, reading politics at an organisational level. This is absolutely critical. I remember, I had a guy came into an organisation I was working with. He tried to make wholesale changes in an area that wasn't really broken, to be honest, and badly misjudged the mood, and he lost a lot of social capital by the way in which he steamrolled her in and tried to change things without really taking a deep breath and looking at the organisational context. So recognising and meeting the needs of people in your team. So you actively go out your way to recognise high performance, to reward people for high performance, and not necessarily just in a financial way, but in a way in which perhaps they wouldn't expect. Maybe give them a reservation at a restaurant, or buy them a subscription to the favourite magazine, or just recognise them in a meeting and say what a great job they did. I had a story about a leader who stood up and he had his PA's name badge on his jacket, and he stood up and explained why he had that, because he said he wouldn't be stood here if it wasn't for her. And I thought it was a brilliant way of just making her feel good about herself and give her the credit for his success. Relationship management. So we've talked about this many times now. So guiding and motivating with a compelling vision. And then wielding a range of tactics for persuasion and getting feedback to help other people. So all three are ways in which you can get the best out of the relationship that you're managing with the people that you're working with, whether it be senior management team or the people below that. So painting a vision, persuading people through presentations, through one-to-one meetings, through connecting and extending, as we've talked about in the first module. And then ultimately bolstering other people's performance by giving them constructive and positive feedback and guidance to guide them through the next step of their journey. Also a change catalyst. So you've got the ability to initiate and manage change. Sometimes people say to me, you can't change this, you can't change that. And I think you can. And often I think you can do it within a week. Certainly I had an experience of coming into a team and changing the culture and changing the sense of direction that we were going. It wasn't easy, but it certainly has paid fruition now. You can resolve disagreements, so you're very good at conflict management. You're not the one starting the conflict. Well, clearly sometimes you've got to be assertive and give your opinion, but you've got an ability to resolve disagreements and the ability to build bonds and maintain that web of relationships. I think I've mentioned it before. That sense of relationship is an invisible rope between me and you as the person I'm relating to. And the more we spend time together, the thicker the rope grows between us and the stronger that connection between us grows. And then finally, you're very, very good, if you are emotionally intelligent, at building teams and creating cooperation and collaboration within teams. And people can see that. So you're not just good at managing individual relationships, you're good at managing a wider group of people and creating that sense of we're all in this together. So they were the emotional competencies. I just want to go back to the other section, which is how you do your job in the next talk.